can scream and shout with all your might.
Scream, shout, whine, cry, snivel, piss, moan. I don't care what you do.
Dig in your heels and hold on tight.
Shove your opinion up your ass where your head is already at.
Either you are wrong or I am right.
Don't forget the ever-present and most likely third possibility. You know what it is by now. You are wrong and I am right. Yes! Welcome to another edition of Stating the Obvious, brought to you by the Cynical Libertarian Society. I am, as always, your host, the master of righteousness and rightness. Not just righteousness, but rightness. Skippy. In the control room, the lovely, the adorable Randy. It is still the 29th of December. It's getting colder outside. It's still windy and crappy. Here in the People's Republic of Fort Collins, we're hanging out at the palatial studios of the Cynical Libertarian Society, where I'm listening to some opera music as I do this recording. That's not coming through, is it? That looks okay. Okay. The website address for Cynical Libertarian Society is 204eastsouth.com/CLS, and the email address, should you have the testicles to contact me here at Stating the Obvious and try to tell me I'm wrong, or if you just want to write, tell me how incredibly cool I am and how much you admire me, or if you want to write in and ask Randy if she'll send you any naked pictures of herself. She won't. I'll let you know right now. I've tried to get some myself, and if I ever do get any, I'll put them on the website. If you want to send us an email, the email address here is God. That's God, as in dog spelled backwards. God at 204eastsouth.com. Alright. We've got some very, very important things to talk about right here. This is a little dated. This is from September the 20th. But I think it's really important for us to go back and talk about these things that are going to have a significant impact on, not just lives individually, but things which are going to impact our entire society, the way we think as a people, as a nation, the things that affect our freedom, our economy. This is critical stuff. All right. Jennifer Aniston says she's doing well and ready to date. Aniston appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show on Monday, one of her first TV interviews since filing for divorce from actor Brad Pitt earlier this year. Aniston said, and I quote, "I'm doing so well." When Winfrey asked Aniston if she was ready to start the whole dating thing again, the 36-year-old actress emphatically replied, "Yes," checking her watch as if to say it was time. Ever since, Jennifer and Brad broke up, I've been on edge. I mean, it's really, in our lives, we get so lost, we get so caught up in these things that are really insignificant, like the Patriot Act and the war on drugs and the war on terrorism, and creeping evangelicalism and creeping liberalism and bullshit like, global war and stuff. And we lose sight of what's really important. And what's really important is who rich, white, liberal, Democrat movie stars are fucking. I mean, that's what's really important, isn't it? I mean, come on, think about it. Your children are sick. Your grandmother is dying. You need to pay your income taxes. I mean, all these little things in our lives don't mean anything compared to these rich, white, liberal, Democrat, elitist actors. And, I mean, who Jennifer Aniston is getting dicked by. I mean, that's some critical shit. I think all of us need to step back and evaluate our lives, in the context of what we are related to the people who are really important around us. Elsewhere, Kate Moss acknowledged the tabloid allegations made recently that she used cocaine. Imagine that. Kate Moss, 6'2", 97 pounds, if that much soaking wet, admitted she used cocaine. I am shocked. Okay, let's get cruising here. This is a couple little excerpts from an interesting article. For those of you who have kids in public school, I missed all this stuff, thank God. When I went to public school, we didn't have all these fucking problems that people have these days. there is, and I see this happens, of course, at CSU also. Well, not really, because the battle's already been won and lost. But there is this battle in public schools about who's going to get their product in there, Coke or Pepsi. Because, of course, the corporations know if you hook the children when they're young, you're going to have them when they grow up. If you grow up drinking Pepsi, you're going to grow up drinking Pepsi and drink Pepsi the rest of your life. If you grow up drinking Coke, you're going to drink Coke the rest of your life. That's why they want to get into these schools. This is an article from, what rag was this? This Bullhorn? Yeah. This is from the Bullhorn. This is from a while back, but I want to read a couple of excerpts from this. Pepsi and Coke. Oh, this is by Mark Wynn, Battling Big Cola. Okay. Pepsi and Coke are not taking the challenge lying down. Using a page from Big Tobacco's playbook, Big Cola is pulling out all the stops in a desperate fight to halt state legislatures from enacting new tough nutrition standards for public schools. What's at stake for the soda companies? Millions of young consumers whose future brand loyalty will be embedded in their malleable cortexes. What's at stake for the... I can't talk. What's at stake for the rest of us? A medical bill for obesity-related illnesses that, according to the CDC, now stands at $93 billion a year, or 9.1% of all U.S. medical expenditures. First of all, if schools were not publicly owned and run, then all this would be irrelevant, because people who own this, if schools were owned privately, if they were small enough, the parents would be able to put the kibosh on this shit. You would have to put legislature through. But here's another interesting thing about that, and this comes up over and over and over again. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before, and I'm going to talk about it in the future. Is again, well, first of all, there's a couple of things here. First of all, obesity-related illnesses. Here we go again with the fat people. Why is it that we can assault cigarette smokers, we can assault people who drink, but goddamn it, don't talk about the fat people? Fat people are costing me a lot of goddamn money. You people need to get some fucking exercise. The medical bill for obesity-related illnesses, that according to CDC, is now $93 billion per year. Why are we paying $93 billion a year for fat people to get medical treatment? First of all, I thought we didn't have socialized medicine in this country. And you got people running around saying, we need socialized medicine. Well, if I'm paying $93 billion a year for fat people to get medical treatment, it sounds to me like we got socialized medicine. What fucking more do you want? Article continues, blah, blah, blah. They being the cola companies in this sentence, they even went so far as to suggest that state government would be disempowering children by taking away their opportunity to buy junk food in school. Here's a concept for you to think about, okay? You can't disempower children by taking away their opportunity to buy junk food in school, because children shouldn't be empowered in the first place. They're children. Children do not, in my opinion, philosophically speaking, children do not have rights. Constitutionally speaking, children should not have rights, and if you're going to tell me that some little fuck, 16-year-old kid in high school, you think he has the fucking right to buy a goddamn Pepsi between classes, I'm going to tell you, you're a dumb fuck. Oh, man, I don't even know if I even want to go off on there. Man, I saw... For those of you out there who have not seen Penn and Teller's bullshit, I started watching those. I got a hold of them recently. They had this, like I said, I missed all this bullshit in public school. They had this great segment where they were showing this thing from war on drugs, terrorism shit, these surveillance cameras from a public school where you're sitting here watching these pigs came in with their drug dogs to do a drug bust, and afterwards it was... stated that they didn't actually find anything. But they come into this school to do a drug bust, and they've got these students down in the hallway. They're like grabbing students in the school. Pigs are grabbing students in the school. I'm watching this, grabbing students in the school, throwing them to the floor, pointing handguns at their heads. And we wonder why teenagers are so fucked up. You're in school. You're walking down the hallway. You're going to some boring fucking class that you don't like anyhow. All of a sudden, this fucking pig grabs you, throws you to the ground, and sticks a gun to your head. And we wonder why our students are so fucked up. We wonder why they come to school and kill people. If I'd had to put up with shit like that when I was in high school, I'd have probably killed somebody too. And we're sitting here, this is what we're worried about. We're worried about the little fat fucks, their right to drink a fucking Coke between class. Why? Fuck that. We need to be worried about their right not to be shot by some rabid pig who's trying to find dope. We need to be worried about whether or not they're actually getting an education. Well, education is a scary word. We need to be worried about whether or not they're actually fucking learning anything useful. We need to be worried about where all that money we're dumping into the education system is going. These are the things we need to be worried about, not whether little fuckers are going to drink a Coke or a Pepsi. Alright, that's all we even need to talk about on that. Junk food in school. There's need to be junk food in school. The little fuckers shouldn't be in school to be eating junk food and drinking pop anyhow. This is part of the goddamn problem. School is like this fucking social activity. There's also the problem that the school is run by the government. There's also the problem that people are forced to go to school. We're going to force you to attend public school. We're going to force you to get thrown to the ground by a pig and have a gun pointed at your head. And then we're going to wonder why you're so fucked up. Sort of fucked up. Let me do this one. This one is old, but this is an oldie but a goodie. This is just classic. Anna Applebaum writes for the Washington Post. This is a commentary by Anna entitled, "Manned Space Flights No Longer Needed." I have to read this paragraph to you. I want you to listen to this very carefully, and I want you to remember that this person went to public school, went to college, and has a degree in journalism. I'm reading now. Anna Applebaum. But why should it go on? It being manned spaceflight. But why should it go on? Or at least why should the human travel part of it go on? Crowded out of the news this week was a small fact that the troubled International Space Station, which is itself accessible only by the troubled space shuttle, had sprung a leak. Also somehow played down is the fact that this search for life on Mars, life is in quotation marks, proof, as the enthusiasts have it, that we are, quote, not alone, unquote, in the universe, is not a search for sentient beings, but rather a search for evidence that billions of years ago there might have possibly have been a few microbes. It's hard to see how that sort of information is going to heal our cosmic loneliness, let alone lead to the construction of condo units on Mars. Now this is, last week, she just figured out the search for life on Mars is not a search for sentient beings. Now stop for a minute and think about this. Until a few weeks ago, this dumb bitch actually thought we were looking for sentient beings living on Mars. Think about this. For everybody's figured out a long time ago there's no people on Mars. But not if you're a journalist. Not if you went to college. Not if you went to public school. If you have a degree in journalism, you think there's people living on Mars. At least you did until a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this is scary shit. This is the fourth estate. These are the people who are protecting us from the government. They think there's little green men on Mars still. And these are the people you fuckers out there are turning to for information. Side of information, we have academic freedom. Just like, yeah, okay. Ooh, this will segue good, kind of. This is from the Rocky Mountain Bullhorn, entitled Academic Freedom, written by Norberto Velazquez. I'm bad with language in general. I think that's how his name is said. Valdez. He is Hispanic, which is another one of those things I still don't know where the fuck Hispan is on a map. You know, If you're Canadian, you're from Canada. If you're French, you're from, well, you're a pussy. If you're British, you're from England. If you're Hispanic, where the fuck are you from? Hispan? Where is Hispan? Somebody show me Hispan on a goddamn map. I've been trying to figure this out for a long time. I don't know where Hispan is. Norberto writes, and I read, a recent experience serves to provide some insight. The League of Women Voters, there's your first clue that something's wrong. Women, well, alright, never mind. I was going to say something about women voting, but that was one of our mistakes. Let me start over. I love you too, Randy. I know you're number one. Alright, let me get back to reading. A recent experience serves to provide some insight. The League of Women Voters sponsored a community forum on illegal immigration. I received separate calls from 2 members of the League of Women Voters asking my opinion on the Bush administration's proposals for immigration reform. Are you for or against? They asked. I said, immigration is a complicated issue, so it's not simply a matter of being for or against the proposed policy. Explain, each asked, and I did so as succinctly as I could. Their response, that's too complicated for this event. And how true it is. You people out there, anything is too complicated for most of you out there. Hold on, I have to think for a second. La la la, thinking. I did not talk about that okay. It's too complicated. There's so much out there that's too complicated for you people. I'm going to come back to this in a second. So blah blah blah, he continues, blah blah blah, and then he gets to the good part. So what does all this have to do with white privilege? Because you knew that even though what he just said right there makes incredibly good sense, you knew there had to be something in here about hating white men. Because white men are, of course, responsible for all evils perpetrated throughout all of time, and liberals don't have anything to do with their life other than save the children and hate white men. So here it comes. So what does all this have to do with white privilege? Anti-racist professor Robert Jensen of the University of Texas said, quote, white people, whether overtly racist or not, benefit from living in a world mostly run by white people that has been built on the land of blacks and non-white people, unquote. A classic example of how liberalism is just like Christianity. See, in Christianity, you're born with original sin. Now, this is something I've always loved about Christianity. This is something I've always loved about Christianity. You're born with original sin. You're born with the sin. You come out of the pussy. You done got the sin on you. In fact, if you're going to go on the belief that the soul is there and it's a person when the sperm cell hits the egg, that means the little egg is floating up in there, right? And that sperm comes swimming up there. The sperm, breaks contact and penetrates it, and boom, the sin is there. I mean, you've got a sperm cell, you've got an egg, and you got sin. It's there from the start. The sin is there. It's everywhere. It's in you. It's with you. You're born with the fucking sin. And they say, you must cast aside your sin. You would go to heaven. Wait, hold on. I came out of the pussy. I ain't even done anything yet. I've already got sin. That's a great scam. You're telling your believers, you must cleanse so it doesn't matter how perfect you are. You've already got sin. You're born with it. You didn't do anything to even get it. You just got it just by existing. And liberalism works exactly the same way. If you're white, you're a racist. Why? Just because you're white. The minute you became white, everything you have is because you're white. It's just like original sin. You can't get rid of it. White people, whether overtly racist or not, benefit from living in a world mostly run by white people that's been built on the backs of the non-white people. You know what? This planet. And here's the thing: if you don't want to live in a land that's been built for white people on the backs of the black people, go to Africa. Beneficiaries of white privilege who can be a Jesus Christ. Now listen to this. Now, see, first of all, we have taken the original sin of racism, and we have now tarred every white person with the original sin of racism. But wait, it gets better. Listen to what I'm about to read. Beneficiaries of white privilege who can be of any race or ethnicity feel entitled to negatively define others without accountability. So you see, not only are the white people tarred, careful, Skippy, that could be racist. Not only are the white people tarred with the original sin of racism, but even non-white people can be tarred with the original sin of... We're all racist. We're all racist, all of us. Many feel entitled to make a career out of studying the other, becoming experts on their communities. Some write from the safety of their locked offices and deride the narratives of oppressed people as anecdotal. Their analysis don't have to be robust, since they can hide behind the privilege of academic freedom. They can confidently state that their sometimes racist conclusions publicly... let me start over again. They can confidently state their sometimes racist conclusions publicly, knowing that they will find acceptability in places like Fort Collins. White privilege gives white folks, especially males, entitlement to take up excessive public space. As if this little faggot's not taking up excessive space. Now this segues nicely into this little piece. Many, many moons ago, we had a play at Bobley Theater called Spinning into Butter, which was basically about racism. We had this jackass who came there, and unfortunately I don't have his name on this paper. He's a teacher at CSU. He came there to have a after-the-theater show talk back with the audience about racism and all this other shit. And he said some interesting things. And he has this piece of paper here. I just want to read this. He wrote this. Without some skills and a certain knowledge-based discussions... These would be discussions of racism. Discussions can too often devolve into a superficial exchange of personal opinions and experiences which lack analytical rigor or reference to any published literature. So you see, talking about an incident that actually happened to you in real life, say for instance where you were discriminated against, or you discriminate against somebody else or something like that, see, that lacks analytical rigor, or these people want to talk about shit that's written in books, and this is scary shit. Discussions can also suffer from emotional shutdown or fear by some students dominating and blaming others, or submission to what is perceived to be politically correct. And who created this political correctness? It's jackasses like you people. This other part down here, this is great. Diversity content classes are difficult yet exciting classes to teach. What the hell is so exciting about listening to a bunch of people sit around and whine about how they can't do anything with their life because they're black or because they're Hispanic? What's so wonderful about that? What is so wonderful about teaching people to blame their problems on their skin color and stand around waiting for a handout instead of teaching them to go out and figure out what the fuck they want and go get it? What the fuck is so great about telling white people that simply because they're white, they're born with some kind of special privilege and they owe the rest of the world something and they're racist just because they're white? What the fuck is so wonderful about any of that? Original sin. The original sin of racism. The original sin of Christianity. There is this piece? Where is it? Here we go. This comes from a much larger discussion about philosophies of living and stuff like that. This individual says the following about his answer to a question. I realize this is not a philosophically rigorous answer, but it has appeal to me. For one thing, it doesn't claim to be philosophically rigorous, so it's hard to criticize it for that. More importantly, as a practical way to get through life, it's a very good guide. Unquote. And this is something that lacks in our society. We see the lack of it in liberalism. We see the lack of it in Christianity. We see the lack of it in the shit that I just read here. Teaching people that all white people are born racist is not a very good philosophy. It's not a very practical philosophy for getting through life. Teaching people that you're born with sin is not a very practical way to get through life. I mean, what is religion? What is specifically Christianity? Christianity is a system by which people are told what to think so they can avoid thinking. Liberalism is the same thing. We're going to tell you what to think so you can avoid thinking. Everybody's racist. All white people are racist. They're born that way. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to figure out for yourself whether or not somebody's racist. Of course, the person has white skin. They're racist. Even if they're not racist, they still benefit from racism because they have white skin. You can just assume they're racist. Look at Christianity. I mean, if there's one thing I love about Christianity is the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Christians are people who are so fucking stupid. God had to tell them by writing it on a rock, don't kill other people. Now think about that for a minute. How many of you out there were so fucking stupid that you didn't know killing people was wrong until you read the Ten Commandments? How many of you out there right now are sitting there going, what? You mean God wrote on a rock that thou shalt not kill? Well, all these years I thought killing people was okay. I go and kill people every weekend. Is that wrong? Do I need to change my... It's shit! I'm just standing here waving my arms in the air. These are Christians. These are people who need to be told. Killing other people is bad. Liberals are people who need to be told everybody's a racist because they're white. It's not your fault. It is the complete mindlessness of people out there that leads to these things. That leads to you people standing around waiting to be told what to think, whether it's by some liberal politician, whether it's by some Bible-thumping fuckhead. There is a severe deficiency in our culture of the ability to look at a situation, make assessments, and create options. Creating options, this is something I want to talk about. Right now, we're having this debate about intelligent design. Now, intelligent design is, of course, just creation. Reworked a little bit to try to make it look good. But when we look at the evolution versus creation argument, what have we got going on here? We've got two schools of thought trying to say they're right. Now, here's what's frightening. We look at creation. Let's start there. We look at creation. This is obviously not what happened. I'm sorry, nobody made the world in 6 days. Creation did not happen. We look at evolution. Evolution tells us that we evolved over time. The theory, and it is a theory, I'm sorry, it's a fucking theory. I think I've given this speech already, and I'm not going to give it now. Evolution is a theory which says there is slow, gradual change over time. And thus, small single-cell organisms evolve into larger-celled organisms, blah, blah, blah. Here's the problem with this. If you actually look at the fossil record, this is not what you see. If you look at the fossil record, you see long periods of stability as far as what type of species are existing, and then you see very rapid periods of change. You see another long period of stability, and you see a rapid period where there's extinctions, new species coming up, and changes, and then you see long periods. Now, the theory of evolution is telling us that there is slow, gradual change. But if you look at the fossil record, you don't see slow, gradual change. That's not what you see in the fossil record as we currently know and understand and have cataloged it. Yet, there is this constant clinging of the two sides to their respective theories. And the reason for this is that nobody is smart enough to figure out maybe there's a third option. Maybe neither creation nor evolution is right. And if you say that to people, they will look at you like you're a fucking idiot. Because the idea that both of those theories could be wrong, the idea that there could be another option, is just so far beyond the ability of you stupid fucking people to go. I mean, you're people who, when you're told that all white people are racist because they're born white, you believe it. You're people who needed to be told by God. God had you write on a fucking rock, don't kill other people. You people are dumb motherfuckers. It's this goddamn simple. You can call me names. You can call me racist, sexist, homophobic. You can say, Skippy, you can't call people names when you're I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's called freedom of speech. And I know you people believe that freedom of speech is only for people that agree with you, but I don't give a fuck what you think because you're stupid. Let's look at another example of this inability to figure out possibilities and solutions and options. Another argument is, of course, the argument of religion, which religion is right, which religion is wrong. I recently read an op-ed column where the only thing that's important here is the writer of this column said there is only one right religion, and it is Christianity. Now let's look at this for a second. Let's say, for the purpose of this discussion, let us for the moment say, yes, there is in fact only one correct religion. Okay? One religion is right, it is totally right, and other religions are all wrong. Okay, we've established that. Now, let's say that the religion which is right is Christianity. Before Jesus was born, before Jesus existed, and thus before Christianity existed, what religion was the right religion? Well, the right religion was Christianity. Right? Christianity simply had not yet been formed as a religious / philosophical body of thought and doctrine. Okay? Now, let me ask you this. Let's say there is only one right religion. How the hell do we know, standing right here today, that that one right religion has already been founded? Just if there's one right religion, it could be a religion that doesn't exist right now. Because if Christianity is the one single right religion, Christianity was still the one single right religion before Jesus. Right? Of course it was. So how do we, for you stupid fucks out there who are arguing there's only one right religion and all the other religions are wrong, how the fuck do you know it's yours? And more important, how the fuck do you know this one right religion is already here amongst us as a body of philosophical, religious thought and doctrine? You have no fucking way of knowing that. And a lot of philosophy falls in the same category. I mean, I take philosophy classes. I love philosophy classes. So many philosophy classes about ethics and morals are devoted to talking about philosophers who have sat around trying to figure out, like why it's wrong to kill other people. I mean, this is just like the Christians who need to have this written on a stone. I mean, you've got Kant. He's sitting around doing all this agonizing, trying to figure out why it's wrong to kill other people. I mean, do you seriously need to think? How much thinking does it take to figure out killing other people for no good reason is a bad thing? How much thinking do you have to put into that? And what is wrong with you that you need to sit around and think about that and go, wow, I wonder if, gosh, I kind of feel like just going out right now and mindlessly killing someone. I wonder if that's right or wrong. Let me think about this philosophically for a while. Maybe I could write some books or something. All of these things, they are, to go back to this original quote, they are philosophically rigorous, or they can be looked at least from that perspective, analyzed, criticized from a position of, is it philosophically rigorous? The problem is, these aren't practical ways, nor are they intelligent ways, nor are they necessarily rational ways to get through life. And instead of looking to religions, instead of looking to white Democrats, instead of looking to all these other things for our guidance, maybe we need to just figure out how the fuck we can get through life. So, to getting through life, why is it that when criminals kill normal people, it's not a big deal, but when a criminal kills a cop, they become a cop killer, and that's suddenly really bad? How did pigs get to be so much better than us? Did pigs get to be better than us by taking high school students and throwing them to the ground in public schools and pointing guns at their heads? Is that why pigs are better than the rest of us? Some classic shit. California, report from the Los Angeles Times. City officials were so concerned about the potentially dangerous properties of dihydrogen monoxide that they considered banning foam cups after they learned the chemical was used in their production. When they learned that dihydrogen monoxide, H2O for short, is the scientific term for water, they dropped the proposal. City manager David J. Norman explained, quote, "We had a paralegal who did bad research," unquote. This is from London, a news dispatch from the Reuters. A scientist dubbed the Safeway poisoner and jailed for trying to poison his wife has been employed by the University of Manchester to lecture students on ethics. A university spokesperson said criminal convictions and teaching ethics were not necessarily mutually exclusive. A person who tried to poison his wife has been hired by an institute of higher education in Great Britain to teach ethics. Meanwhile, back to San Francisco Chronicle, after George Bush's re-election, had a article about the response of the art community. The headline, quote, "Whether in shock or mourning, artists look for ways to reach out," unquote. Underneath the quote from Fat Mike, a local musician, quote, "When I run into a tourist with a southern accent, I'm going to tell them to get the fuck out of San Francisco. We're at a culture war. I'm angry with them. We live in a country shrouded in ignorance," unquote. Yes, Fat Mike. Indeed, we do live in a country shrouded with ignorance, and much of it is yours. This is old news, but I want to make sure I cover it. Ecstasy study retracted. This ecstasy, we've all heard by now of these tests in which it was found that ecstasy fries your brain and all this other shit. Long story short, the lab animals the ecstasy was tested on were not given ecstasy. They were given methamphetamines because the laboratory scientists got mixed up and then they gave them the wrong chemical. They gave the lab animals methamphetamines instead of giving them ecstasy, thus invalidating the entire piece of research. What's classic is this very last sentence. The laboratory has developed a test for use in future studies to make sure it is using the actual drug that the research calls for. Wow, isn't that great? The laboratory that does the testing to see what the drugs do is going to actually attempt to find out they're using the right drug before they start doing the test in the future. We haven't done that in the past. It's never really occurred to us because the war on drugs is just propaganda bullshit anyhow. That makes me feel so much safer. Undercover air marshals kill suspicious passenger at Miami airport. Yeah. The chase ended moments later, Wednesday, in a Miami International Airport jetway when authorities say Rigoberto Alpizar, or however you say his name, appeared to reach for his bag. He was shot to death by the man in the Hawaiian shirt and the second purser, both undercover air marshals. A man was shot to death by air marshals for appearing to reach for his bag. Before he ran off the plane, he, quote, uttered threatening words that included a sentence to the effect that he had a bomb. Now, what does that mean? A sentence to the effect that he had a bomb. What in the fuck does that mean? Are you sure he didn't say, man, that chick up there, her ass is the bomb? No bomb was found, and federal officials later concluded there was no link to terrorism. Witnesses said his wife, Anne, frantically tried to explain he was bipolar, a mental illness also known as manic depression, and was off his medication. So they shot the man for being bipolar and reaching for his luggage. I don't know about you. I feel safer already. You know, knowing that the government is out there doing the great job. They did such a wonderful job protecting us on 9/11. They did a great job cleaning up after that hurricane. You know, whenever I look around and I see the federal government is out there doing things like shooting people who aren't terrorists and don't have a bomb to protect me when I get on air, I feel so much safer. How are we on time, Randy? Thank you. Let's talk about the global warming. Global warming, I tell you what, man. It's December. It's been 60 degrees here for the last week almost. Sunny, beautiful, warm. I'm loving it. If this is global warming, count me in. A couple of new studies. We all know about the heat island effect. Well, some of you don't. I don't care. Other land use changes, especially agricultural conversions and irrigation, cause surface warming as well. The authors of this study have estimated that the trend in daily mean temperature, yes, due to land use change is 0.35 degrees centigrade per century. Another thing that's affecting the warming of the climate, according to a different study, is soot produced by burning fossil fuels and biomass. Once it is settled on ice and snow in the northern hemisphere, for those of you who need to be told this, dirty snow melts faster than clean snow because the black particles absorb more heat from the sun. The soot effect may be responsible for about 0.2 degrees Celsius of warming over the next 120 years. It also helps explain thinning Arctic ice, earlier spring snowmelt, and many melting glaciers often cited by environmentalist wackos. These studies suggest that land use change accounts for 0.35 degrees Celsius of warming over 100 years, soot responsible for another 0.2 degrees of warming over a slightly longer period. Total warming during the century was 0.6 degrees Celsius. This means that approximately 0.05 degrees Celsius of this so-called warming could actually be attributed to greenhouse gases. Global warming, it's not happening, people. It's not happening. Other things that aren't happening are intelligence. Here we have it again. 25% of college women have been victims of rape. Right? Whatever. Now, these are some interesting statistics. This is from a Collegian article about watching your drink and date rape drugs. They conveniently give us a whole list here of date rape drugs. I didn't know. Yeah, this is great. And possible. Now, listen to this. These are. I'll come back to statistics in a moment. Symptoms of date rape drugs. Now remember, this date rape drugs that you're supposed to be looking out for as a woman are being put into your alcoholic beverage while you're at a party. So now think about this. You're at a party, you've been boozing, you've been dancing, you've been partying. These are some of the symptoms you might feel if somebody has given you a date rape drug. Relaxation. Been drinking about a bunch of alcohol, you think you might be relaxed. Drowsiness. Imagine that. Dizziness. Nausea. Problem seeing. Unconsciousness. Seizures. Unable to remember what happened while drugged, which would be the same thing as blacking out. Problems breathing. Tremors. Sweating. Vomiting. Slow heart rate. Dreamlike feeling. Coma. Death. Gee, those sound exactly like the symptoms that come from drinking. Especially if you're Samantha Spady and you drink too much, you get a slow heart rate and you get the death part. We'll get to Samantha Spady's fat little cunt-laden ass in a little bit. Cunt-laden ass? Where did I get that from? How do you have a cunt-laden ass? I don't know. Here are the symptoms of another date rape drug. And the point I'm trying to make here, for those of you, any of these could be a list of the symptoms you get from drinking alcohol. How the fuck are you supposed to know you've been given a date rape drug? All of these sound exactly like what you get from alcohol. Listen to this one. Can't remember what happened while drugged. Lower blood pressure. Sleepiness. Muscle relaxation or loss of muscle control. Here's a great symptom. Drunk feeling. Nausea, problems talking, difficulty with motor movements, loss of consciousness, confusion, problem seeing, dizziness, confusion. They listed confusion twice under the same drug because they didn't proofread. Because they're college students. Because they've had 12 years of fucking public education and now they're in a college and they don't even proofread the shit in the newspaper. And the last one is stomach problems. These are all symptoms of drinking alcohol. Every woman on campus is getting date rape drugged according to these symptoms. These are all symptoms that come from drinking alcohol. Here's the last one. This is great. Hallucinations. Lost sense of time and identity. Distorted perceptions of sight and sound. Feeling out of control. Impaired motor functions. Problems breathing. Convulsions. Vomiting. Out-of-body experiences. Memory problems. How many different ways can we say blacked out? In an attempt to, create information that doesn't exist. Dream-like feeling. Numbness. Loss of coordination, which would be completely different from feeling out of control, wouldn't it? Aggressive or violent behavior and slurred speech. Folks, these are the symptoms of drinking alcohol. How this is supposed to be helpful to anybody is beyond me. Back to the statistics. The women who were raped, 25% describe it as rape. So that brings to the question of, what did the other 75% describe it as? And who made the decision that those 75% were wrong about whatever they described it as, and that in fact they were raped, even though they didn't think they were raped? Who exactly made that decision for them? Of the women who were raped, 10% reported the assault. Now, to come up with the statistic that 10% of women who are raped report the assault, you would have to know how many women overall were raped in order to arrive at 10% reported it. But if 90% of the rapes are unreported, then how do you know how many rapes are unreported? Thus, how can you take the number of reported rapes and compare that number to the number of unreported rapes in order to determine the number of reported rapes is 10% as in comparison to the entire number of all the rapes when you don't know how many other rapes there are. This statistic is not just bullshit. This statistic is mathematically impossible to arrive at. This is a lie. This is a pure lie. And I've had this discussion before because I've talked about rape statistics before on Stating the Obvious. I'm going to say it again because some of you are stupid. I'm not saying raping women is okay. I'm not saying you should rape women. I'm not marginalizing. All I'm saying is this statistic is a lie. And my question, as it was then, the same it is now, if helping women who have been raped and if preventing rape are such wonderful, noble causes, why do you have to make up statistics which are obviously lies? Why are you lying if you're trying to achieve such a wonderful thing? What is the real agenda here? "84% of women who are date raped know their attacker." So in other words, 84% of the women who were raped while on a date were with somebody they knew. 16% of the women who were raped while on a date were on a date with someone they didn't know. Now, who the fuck are you people that date people you don't know? I mean, are you just randomly walking down the street and just grab somebody and say, hey, we're on a date together? Don't tell me your name. Don't look at me. I'm not going to look at you because I don't want anything. What is this shit? What are these 16% of women who were date raped by somebody they don't know? What were they doing? What was going on there? 44% of women who were date raped have considered suicide. First of all, everybody at some point in their life has probably considered suicide. Second of all, how does this statistic compare to women who haven't been date raped? I mean, this is a completely out of context, meaningless statistic that tells us absolutely nothing other than the social and political agenda of the people who are generating it, which of course is to keep women in their place by telling you women that you are helpless and you are at the mercy of the evil white man and you're going to get drugged and raped and taken advantage of, and your only salvation is to turn to rich, white, liberal, Democrat men for salvation.
It's just a matter of opinions. Never keep both in sight. Why should you bother with the other side? Even though yours is right.
I am right. Imagine that. That's why I don't pay attention to the other side. Alright, did not get through as much as I thought I was going to get through, but that's okay. We'll come back.